questions with Cat and Nakia. We have this most delightful little munchkin today.
She played Little Me.
Yes.
In Power Rangers Zeo Beginning Part 1 and 2. Lasean Davis, just a phenomenal human being all around.
Yes.
And her favorite episodes, which were the only 2 episodes that she was in for Power Rangers Zeo Beginning Part 1 and 2. Let's get to it.
Hi, Cat and Nakia. How excited I am to be talking about all things Power Rangers today, right?
Miss Lasean, what did you enjoy most about filming a Zeo Beginning 1 and 2?
What did I enjoy the most about filming a Zeo Beginning Part 1 and Part 2? I think I didn't even really understand the magnitude of what I was into, what we were doing at that time. It was just so surreal to be a part of the franchise, to be acting as a part of something that you genuinely appreciated and liked to watch. How cool is that? In between, the season, someone is just like, hey, come in. There's a part, we're auditioning kids because they're going to be shrunk, to smaller versions of themselves. And hey, we want you to audition for this part. So just the thought of that today kind of blows my mind. And then when you look back on 28 years, and 28 years wasn't even the beginning, that was just a portion of season 3. What the franchise became, I'm just in awe and very grateful to have been a part of something so thrilling and exciting as a kid that people, myself included, have come to treasure for so long after, so really, really cool.
Oh, I love that. Well, you were so right. Power Rangers is just, it was every kid's dream. I remember when Blake had gotten on the show, he was a fan of Power Rangers. And to be able to be on such an iconic show and be a part of it was something huge for him. So I would imagine that most of the kids that were on it that knew about Power Rangers would feel the same way. And of course I loved working with you. So thank you. Were you familiar with how popular Power Rangers was before you auditioned for it? Because I would imagine that it would have struck up a lot of nerves. And if so, how did that affect you in the audition?
So we're talking about all things Power Rangers and what this whole establishment has morphed into, right? At the time, was I familiar with how popular the Power Rangers brand would become? Absolutely not. I was just a kid in middle school that had picked up a new cartoon a couple of seasons ago and was over the moon about it. And then to have just stumbled into acting per se and to get the opportunity to be a part of it, I don't even think, now that I think about it, I really focused in on how big of an opportunity that was, as opposed to just being a kid in a candy store and being excited to be a part of something you really believed in and really liked. Like Power Rangers was it, there are the Incredibles decades before that got revamped. I used to like this other cartoon called Fantastic Four growing up. And then here come Power Rangers, and I get to be a part of it. Get out of town. So super cool. Even now, the things that like you and Cat still do, and other Rangers, of course, with all the conventions and the signings, because people still believe in what we loved. Absolutely amazing, as far as I'm concerned. Really, really love it.
The fact that you went in there and you kind of didn't care so much, I think that added.
It makes it less intimidating.
Yeah.
To be honest. attached to it.
Mhm.
Like this was her first acting job,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. But and she was being matched to someone. I wonder if that was also part of it. Like I wonder if she knew that she was being matched to you.
I think when we were talking, I think she did know, because I think when they were casting, they were looking for someone that looked similar to me.
To you.
So yeah, she did. But taking it easy, I think sometimes it works as a benefit to not know the popularity of it. I mean, she was very familiar with the show, but it wasn't what she wasn't what typical people would be nervous going in when like, oh my gosh, I'm about to work with Steven Spielberg. Your heart just you know. I didn't know the Power Rangers either when I first auditioned, which I felt was very helpful. I started getting nervous towards the end when it came down to like 3 of us at the screen test when I met Little Head here. So good for you.
We all know who you didn't enjoy working with, but who did you enjoy working with?
So while on set, who did I enjoy working with the most? Shout out to Cicely, but don't get too excited. More so by default, okay? The episodes that I did were mainly filmed with her. There were some scenes that we did, which, like the African scenes and going back to where young Tanya Sloan comes from and the exchange and kind of like the mission. And then in part 2, where power is being kind of transferred and we all end up back in the command center. And then, we're on the verge of being morphed back into our big selves, right? That scene was really the only other scene where I socialized with the other cast members. A lot of them had been together filming more episodes up to that point. But since I was the crossover introducing the new young Tanya that would be a part of the new Zeo legacy, I didn't get to hang out with a lot of them while on set. So I would say, again, shout out to Cicely. Hey, bud, it was you and me in there. And then I got to meet the others for that scene, including shout out to David Yost, too. Billy, he was very warm and kind, but he was like the only other one outside of Nakia herself that I got to meet. So that's my story for that. Sorry, it's not more glamorous, but that is what my role called for at the time. And that's all I got.
Oh, you are so funny. Oh my gosh. Well, Cicely, I'm sure she loved working with you. Sorry that you were stranded with only, 2 possibilities. We did kind of work together somewhat. We got a chance to see each other. You're just so complimentary. Thank you so much.
And she enjoyed working with David.
Yes.
Yeah, David really enjoyed working with the kids. I remember him saying that.
Yeah. So A Zeo Beginning was the start of something completely new. We were leaving Mighty Morphin and going into new suits, new style, new design. How did it feel to be a part of something that was going to be so legendary?
So the new Zeo episodes were the beginning of a whole new series. The suit, the powers, enhancements, design, all that stuff. Again, at 12, I don't think I was really clued into the significance of that. But now as we celebrate, the legacy of Power Rangers and what it developed into over time, I am so in awe to have been a part of that and to have participated in such a transition piece, especially with the introduction of Tanya, which was Nakia Breeze. Heart, love her. So pretty inside and out. And now as she was kind of being gifted and passed the torch from Karen Ashley, right? To be a part of the incoming of something else, I think just was extremely special. and to see how the legacy would continue to grow. You know, oftentimes with shows, especially things that we really like, when there's a shift, then the change doesn't always indicate that the value and the excitement will remain. But we can clearly see over time, Power Rangers um, has maintained and stood up to the test of time in terms of its value and appreciation. So being able to introduce Nakia to the world, and to see how she was able to hold her own among the rest of everybody else, who was stellar in their individual roles, was just cream of the crop. Couldn't be more excited to be a part of that transition for sure.
I love that.
I remember was seeing all of you at Ranger Stop and Pop when they had them all there, all the young Rangers, and how overwhelmed you all were with the popularity. I know Julia and Michael have been in the con world a little bit longer than all of you, but you were all so gracious with the fans and just so overwhelmed with how you were being received and remembered. And that's what this series is, the legacy of this show. It's amazing.
And I don't think that, I mean, we talk about this often at shows. We didn't know the impact when we were filming. We didn't really experience the impact until we started participating in comic conventions, because we actually got to meet the fans outside of Make-A-Wish Foundation kids that would come. So we've heard so many stories and what Power Rangers has meant to so many people. So I can only imagine as a child, to go to your first convention when you were 12 and now you're an adult and you see that people remember you from that age. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So who was the first adult Ranger that you met when you went on the show?
Who was the first adult Power Ranger I met on set? Let's think about it. I'm going to go with Nakia Burris for 1000 because there's only two. It was either Nakia or David, one of them. Now, thinking back 28 years ago, give me a pass. I want to believe it was Nakia because she was just really friendly and kind like that. So I kind of feel like I have this memory of her stopping by a makeup room one day when I was there, because we really didn't have a scene together. So there wasn't really a reason for me to see her, but I feel like we were on set same day, same time, and she made sure to introduce herself to me. Again, over the moon. I will probably say over the moon a lot because I feel like I live there in terms of some of these really, really nice experiences. However, if someone were to track me and say that's not true, it would have to be David, aka Billy, for 500. Because I did shoot that scene with him and the other Rangers that day, and he was a sweetheart. Shout out to David if you ever watch this and you're seeing me. Do you even remember me? Because it was so brief, that moment that we had, but memorable nonetheless. So those are the two I had. So give a toss up, but I'm thinking it was Nakia based on friendliness, and then I shot the scene with David. I'm gonna stick with that.
David and Nakia. You
were right.
Hello. You were not a diva. You were so kind.
No.
Right? What happened?
I even went to LaShawn's career day.
Yeah.
And she didn't even remember. Her mother remembered, though. I'm like, you were too young to not remember. But yes, we really bonded. We didn't get a chance to keep in contact throughout the years, but she asked me if I would come to her career day. She was 12, so she must have been, I think she was in middle school, like 6th or 7th grade. And I remember going to her career day and speaking to her class, and it was just really great. And I wanted her to feel comfortable on set as well. It was new for me and new for her. So that was just great. But yes, you were right. I was one of the first adults that you met outside of dating.
And I forgot that I never met you. I'd seen you, but I'd never actually worked with you. And I finally got to meet you recently, and you're just adorable. So.
Yes.
Yes.
Beyond adorable. Okay, LaShawn. Since you and I both had to wear the same outfits for so many days.
So this would have to be one of my favorite questions, if not my favorite, simply being, what did I think of the wardrobe that I had to wear, and the thought of wearing the same African garb and head dressing? Very, very interesting. So going into the set those days, I was not sure, or told rather, of what the attire would be. You know, you think of sometimes fancy costumes and dressing rooms, and then who wouldn't think they were getting called for a Power Rangers gig and wouldn't actually put on a suit? No, ma'am. That was not the case. So it was this African outfit of sorts, kind of similar to like a kente cloth wrap, the way they had it designed. It was cute. Shout out to the costume designer for that, and some necklaces with some shells and the head wrap. What I think threw us all off without proper communication in advance was, let's also toss this in as a fun fact, right? I came in with pressed out hair to shoot an African scene in Africa with this head garb as this little African, this authentic African girl. Go figure. And my mama spent some money to get my hair done, to get ready to go on set. Anyway, I digress. But it didn't call for all of that. We could have simply blow dried my hair. We probably could have plaited it, put some braids in. There are so many things we could have done differently for that. Shout out also to the crew for just rolling with it. Like, what are we going to do with our hair at this point? You know what we're going to do? We're just going to put this head wrap on and we're going to start to film. That's what we're going to do. It was literally like that. I will say, in their defense, there was discussion about my hair. Some people knew that pressed hair in Africa didn't seem to correlate. But when it came time to film, clearly we made very little adjustment. I will say, if you watch part 1 and part 2, based on the amount of time that we spent outside and the weather changing and the elements of the day in some of the heat and the cold at night, you will see slightly different texture in part 1 and part 2. All part of the fun and the glamour of dealing with all things elements in a day's time of shooting. But shout out to Nakia when we morphed and she became herself, the bigger version of me. She had on that head wrap and her hair was pressed too, bumped under the bottom, and we were good to go. So who would know that at that time, Africans were not into pressed hair? You know what? We didn't lose a beat off of it, right? But I find that to be even more hilarious now, reflecting back on it. Great memories.
I'm glad that you found fun in wearing it. Now, the hair.
Yeah, let's talk about
Let's talk about the hair.
Let's talk about that. That was when you were saying about the pressed hair, I was like, that did not even occur to me until you were saying it.
Me either.
Yeah.
I remember booking Power Rangers, and they sent me to Beverly Hills to get my hair straightened. And, you know, I was excited to go into Beverly Hills because I had never had my hair done in Beverly Hills, but I wasn't excited to see that there weren't anybody that looked like me.
Oh, really?
Not one.
Wow.
And so I had someone, in my question to them when they were about to straighten my hair with a perm, have you done black hair before? Because it's much different. And she told me that she did. And actually, when I left, my hair looked really great. So I was really happy.
But you did have, I remember some hairdressers that.
Yeah, that was the second round. Yeah, that was the second round. But I didn't even think about that, LaShawn. You brought that up so well. I didn't think about that. We were coming. Well, what I did ask the producers were, why are we coming from Africa without an accent if that's where we're from?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
We'll put a pin in that.
And then we'll make a story about it later. That you were actually in Africa with your parents on a mission trip.
Right. We'll explain that in Turbo.
Yeah, that parents never looked for you. They were like, bye! Have fun in America.
Yeah, with people I've never met. It's Power Rangers.
Who did you live with? Me? Did you live with Cat?
I don't know, but didn't you live with Karen?
I don't know.
We were all just living in everybody's. I don't know who I lived with.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I came there and I don't know.
I lived with Rita, I guess, when I first joined, because I was evil.
No, but then you moved into.
Was I living with Aisha?
I think you were living with Aisha, but then Aisha went to Africa.
She left me.
So you stayed with her parents?
I don't know.
And then I just moved in? I don't know.
They were like, we'll take a new daughter. Come on in.
The woes of Power Rangers.
The holes.
Unexplainable.
Yes. LaShawn, please share with us a fun fact of your time on Power Rangers.
Please.
And the fun facts continue, right? My time on the show, what would I want some fans to know, if they don't already know already, with different types of budgets nowadays and travel flexibility based on, the amount of revenue a particular franchise brings in, a lot of things can be shot on location, right? Well, the transition of young Tanya Sloan in Africa was not in Africa. It was Africa by way of Valencia, California, out in the desert, near stray pieces of tumbleweed and some set decor. Also out in the desert at that time, we were still filming after sunset. The temperature drops like nobody's business. Not so fun fact. Cicely and I were freezing quite often trying to get through those lines. And shout out to all the actors and actresses that are recording in elements and conditions where you have to keep a smile and stay in character when you're cold, when you don't have on any clothes, when it's extremely hot, when it's just uncomfortable to have to recite lines and stay in character and deal with these elements all around you. Shout out to all the people who do that with success. I did the best that I could under the circumstances, but I digress. Fun fact, we weren't in Africa. We were right up there by Magic Mountain, recording all this stuff, having the time of our lives. And I won't forget it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yes, again, movie magic. We had Turkey for Samuel. Now we're in Africa in Valencia. So funny.
Yeah. We can go anywhere through a computer and phones and special effects. And yeah, we could be, in Alaska right now.
We could be.
Yeah, you see that? So we'll just add
amazing
background.
Acting.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I really believed you were in Alaska
right?
just then.
Now we're in Africa.
Oh!
Ooh.
Woo! Gosh.
Wow. Do you see that? Oh, look at that elephant. Oh my gosh, look at that cheetah. Yeah, we're fools. Anyway. Thank you you guys so much for joining us today. And we have a question for the fans. What is your favorite episode from Zeo?
Comment below.
Bye.
And a special shout out to our Platinum, Gold, and Diamond members. Thank you to all of our members.